G'day guys, Shannon Noll here and welcome to our second episode of Idle Talking with Nollsy. Thanks to everyone who gave us some really good feedback on the first episode with Dicko. We had a lot of fun doing it and see how we go with this one. So I'd like to welcome my producer, Tim Holland. G'day, Tim.
Great to be here. Hopefully we don't suffer from second show syndrome. We'll see how we go.
Hey,
I don't think we will because we've got a great guest once again. One half of the top rating breakfast show on WSFM in Sydney, Jonesy and Amanda, which they've been doing that show for almost 20 years. Previously, this man was on the Triple M network. He's also been a fixture on our TV screens on shows such as Houseos, Dancing with the Stars, 20 to 1, and even The Bold and the Beautiful. So please welcome our guest today, Brendan Jonesy Jones.
Shannon, Tim, it's a pleasure to be here, and on the second show after Dicko.
Yeah, Dicko. What did he say? Pop the cherry last week, as he put it, mate. Bold and the Beautiful. Really? Wow.
It was a very short. It was a very short role. I played a journalist with Ida Buttrose, of all people, and Amanda, and we're in a press conference, and I proposed marriage to the girl that was about to get married to a man that was half my age and 10 times hunkier, but I still proposed marriage, which is just not even my scene. The script made no sense, but a friend of mine was in LA and they said, I just watched Bold and the Beautiful and you're on it. So it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, that's great. Have you seen Ron Moss lately? I saw a photo of him the other day because he held it together for so long, you know what I mean? Because I remember watching that show. Oh, I didn't even watch it, but Mum would have it on when I got home from school, you know what I mean? And he's quite grey, and that now I suppose he'd be pretty getting on a bit now, I suppose, wouldn't he?
Well, he left the show. He left, and they replaced Ridge with another Ridge.
Oh, you can't do that. He's the only Ridge, mate. The only Ridge.
Well, that shows you how long you haven't been watching it for.
I sort of stopped after I got a license. I could get out of the house because he was a bit of a muso too, wasn't he?
Yes, he played. He was in the band Player. He played the bass in Player, and which is quite an acceptable bass riff in the song "Baby Come Back."
Yeah, cool.
So that was pretty good. We had him on our show a few times. Always a good guest. Always providing good content.
Oh, he seemed like a really nice fella from what I'd seen of him interviewed and that. But, mate, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. We really do. It's been great. You and I have been mates for a long time. You've always been very, very good to me, you and Amanda, and I really, really appreciate it. So this is going to be a little bit of fun. So elaborate on anything that you want to, mate, because I haven't seen a lot of interviews you've done, and I think you're a pretty interesting cat to interview, mate.
Well, thank you, mate. It's nice. It's nice to be in the interviewee's chair.
Yeah. So, mate, tell us how Jonesy and Amanda first came about, because you've been absolutely on top for so long. You've been right up there for a long time now, and you've also been doing the show for a while too, mate. So tell us how it all got started.
Well, we've been a solid number two for a while, which is good, which you're happy for at our age. We worked together at Triple M, and that was the station I always wanted to work at. And she was doing the breakfast show with Andrew Denton, and then there was about in 1999. Andrew fell ill, and they called me up at the last minute, and I was living in Oyster Bay, which is probably about 40 minutes from Bondi Junction. They rang me up at about 5:30 in the morning, and they said, "Oh, can you come in and fill in for Andrew? He's unwell." And I went, "Oh, yeah, sure." And they said, "I said, but when does the show start?" And they said, "Oh, 6." And I went, "Well,
yeah, wow."
And I was on my motorbike, so an endorsement for a bike in Sydney. So I was at work as the opener for the Andrew Denton breakfast show started. And I only met Amanda a handful of times. And I sort of sat down in the chair and I said, "Hey, Amanda, how are you?" "Well, my name's Jonesy and I'll be your panel op for the day." And we did one show. And then at the end of the show, the producer said, "Look, Andrew's, he's really crook. He's probably going to be off tomorrow, maybe the next day." And I went, "Yeah, sure." Yeah. So I ended up doing the show for the whole week. And by the end of it, I just thought, wow, and I rang Amanda when I was coming home because I had this sadness, because I just thought, this is the best radio I've ever done in my life, but it will never happen. It will never be a show. And I've done a lot of different shows with different people, and there's a chemistry that you can't buy it.
Yeah.
And I
absolutely.
And Amanda said to me, she said, "Oh yeah, I had fun too." And I said, "Oh no, you're just patronising me." And she said, "No, I really did. I felt a real connection." But she's working with Andrew Denton, and like I just come from Triple M in Brisbane, so it wasn't like, I didn't have any aspirations. Well, I did. I'm always ambitious, but I always thought to myself, if I could do a show with Amanda, we would do well.
Yeah,
And
absolutely have, mate. I've nailed it. Andrew Denton's a good fella, isn't he? I remember years ago. What was that show he did with that hologram or whatever it was?
Tench.
Yeah, Tench. That's right. Yeah. That was so funny because I was at Sony at the time, and they said, "Oh, they want you to go on Tench or whatever it was called," and I said, "Yeah, no worries." And they're all going, "Oh no, we shouldn't really let him be exposed to Andrew Denton. He could tear him up, So I nearly had to have media training before I went into it, just to sort of try and make sure I was protected. But it turned out to be quite the opposite. Everything was really lovely because I think the character itself was a little bit controversial and like to have a bit of a stab, but it couldn't have gone better. Like he was really, really lovely and like the character that is. But it was ended up being a really good interview. So it was pretty funny. So he's a smart guy though.
Well, I thought that Tench, he was like on drugs because he just seemed a bit too animated for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep your wallets away, boys. That's free. Although he was looking a little drawn towards the end. Like Channel 10 fully.
Yeah, no, I've got nothing, mate. I'm racking my brain trying to think of something.
I had to pack up the overhead projector and say, "Off you go, mate." They just switched on the light.
Yeah, pull out the plug. It's all over.
Yeah.
So, mate, obviously, what was the start in radio? So, how long had you been in radio before that opportunity came?
So I started in 1990. So I grew up in Sydney, and I always wanted to be in radio. And I ended up, working as a concreter, which is pretty a fair whack away from radio.
And you listen to a lot of radio.
I listened to a lot of radio, and I used to work in the sewers at Bondi Beach there, just under North Head, and I'd ride my motorbike past the Triple M Towers at Bondi Junction, and I used to just look up there and think, man, Doug Murray's up there right now doing a radio show, and I was
that's cool,
just blown away by it. And then when I finally worked at Triple M all those years later, I remember walking. Riding my bike under the towers, looking up as I was walking in, and I just thought, wow, I said, man, this is nuts. I'm actually working here, not as a guest or anything. But it took a long time to get there. It was so I went to Western Australia. That was the only place to give me a job, up in Karratha, which is. Have you ever been to Karratha in Western Australia?
Yeah, I did. The first year I was on tour, we flew up there. A heap of us in a small plane. We did Karratha, Port Hedland, and Broome. It was three gigs in a row up there. It was fantastic, but yeah, it was crazy country up there. It was dry, and I think one night I wasn't real popular because they might have been to Karratha pub or Port Hedland pub or something, but they had to cancel the strippers because my show was on. so the boys weren't real happy with it. I don't think.
What a hard act to follow.
All the strippers come to the show.
No girls tonight, but we've got Shannon Noll.
Nosy. Lucky that could have probably been the first time something was thrown at me, I reckon.
Because when up there in Karratha, our cleaner we used to have at the radio station, Kylie, she was the cleaner by day, and at night she was a skimpy girl.
Yeah,
she wasn't skimpy. She at the bar at the Karratha Tab, which was right next door.
Yeah.
And I remember one time, this is when I smoked. I was playing Take 40 Australia on a tape. And they made the station non-smoking. You had to go outside. So I walked outside to have a smoke. The door shut. And so then I'm locked outside. And it wasn't a big deal because I'm next door to the tab, and I knew that she was there. So I've had to go in next door, and she's there with topless. And I said, Kylie, have you got the keys to the radio? And she said, where would I put them? And I said, and then she goes, hang on a minute, love. And then so she's had to serve these guys beers. In the meantime, I'm looking at my watch going, I think there's about 10 minutes of Barry Bissell to go. Can we get on this one?
Oh, that's a great story. But I'll tell you what, bud, just thinking about it resonated with me looking up when you said you looked up and talking about, what was his name? Sorry, the guy.
Doug Murray.
Doug Murray, yeah. That seems to me like you willed it a little bit, mate. You know what I mean? Because I believe a lot in positive thinking and that sort of stuff, and I reckon it sounds like you actually made it happen by just pure will.
I think, I think it's just, I guess there is something in that. I usually, when I'm set my mind to something, I can do it. I find that very frustrating with TV because I've been at the ground level of many TV projects, many shows you can see on telly, and none of them have got up. So it's really, I find that incredibly frustrating. So I often think, radio, it just worked. And then sometimes I think maybe I don't really want TV as much as I think I want it.
Yeah. Maybe it's not as much as you wanted radio back then when you were working in the sewers, probably.
Well, and exactly. And when you look at it, when you're working in the sewers,
for sure.
Although when I got to Karratha, because I used to get paid $1,000 in the hand a week, which is good money for 1990 or 1989. And when I got into Karratha Radio, my first paycheck was $243, and I just thought, "Where's the rest? What am I going to live on?
Absolutely.
Where's the splash money?"
It's funny though, because over the years, like I've been interviewed by so many people in radio, and like you'll be interviewed by someone in Canberra or something, and then 6 months later you're doing an interview up in Port Douglas or something. It'll be the same person. Yeah. And they go like, "Oh, you know them. You've done an interview with them before." And I'm going, "I haven't been interviewed by anyone up here before," but it's actually someone. So it's people get moved around all the time.
Well, and that's what happened with, and my wife, Helen, at the time, she was my girlfriend then. So we went to Karratha, and I was probably there for a bit too long. Usually when you go to Karratha, you're there for about 6 months. But I had a bit of bad luck. I got offered a job in Muswellbrook, and then they rescinded the job through no fault of mine or anyone's, really. Yep. So I ended up staying, and then I started to like Karratha. You become a big fish in a small town, you know everyone. I knew the boss of the radio station really well, so we'd always be drinking, and it was just and the town is such a lovely town. I really liked living. And then I remember Helen said, "You know what? When you got into this, you didn't plan to stay in Karratha for the rest of your life, did you?" I went, "Well, it's a good town."
It grew on you.
Be the mayor,
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's great. Small knit towns like that. Everyone knows everyone, and it's great.
And so so when I went to Muswellbrook, but you're right. So you go Karratha, Muswellbrook, and my first big interview was with Cole Elliott, this comedian.
Yeah, I know Cole Elliott. He's great. I love Cole Elliott.
We had this great interview in Karratha, and then when I got to Muswellbrook, he came for an interview, and I, "Cole, how are you?" hoping to pick up where we left off, and he looked straight through me as if he'd never met me before. I said, I met you in Karratha. We did a half an hour show together. It was only supposed to be a 5-minute interview. Everyone loved it. And he goes, "Yeah, mate, I talked to a lot of people." And it was at that point, I just thought, that's, and largely that still happens now with the interviews that we have. Yeah. Although I will say Paul Rudd, just recently, we spoke to him 10 years ago when he was an Anchorman. We just talked to him about his latest Ant-Man thing. And he did remember me and Amanda. There was a nice cool. Well, you get, it's a bit of a, you get a bit of a church sausage factory. Fitzy and Whipper all going for the interview, and Colin Jack. And we're all sort of, it's like that cartoon, morning Ralph, morning Frank. Go and talk to them. So it's kind of like that. But he was, it's nice when they say, "Oh yeah, how you guys been? You're still doing it." So that. So
mate, 20 years together with a hit show. You know what I mean? You'd be hoping someone remembers you. But Paul Rudd's a good one. He's a great. I think he's great. I love his acting. He's very funny, isn't he? Because he was in Anchorman too, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah.
He was funny in that. 60% of the time, it works every time. Mate, so reality TV shows, what do you think of them? What was your Dance with the Stars experience like? Because mine wasn't so good.
Well, so Dancing with the Stars was funny because I had this call from Channel 10, and the boss of Channel 10 rang up and said, "Mate, we want you for The Bachelor." And I said, "Well, with all due respect, I'm married." And they said, "No, not as one of the bachelors, as the host." And I went, "Really?" And they said, "Yeah, look, And I said, "Well, why don't you go with Andrew G?" And he goes, "Well, he's a bit too young. We don't want a fox in the hen house. We want an older guy." And I went, "Thank you." Yeah. And so I went along, and then that day, or rather 2 days later, Channel 7 rang, and they said, "Oh, we really think you should come on Dancing with the Stars." Yeah. So I rang my agent. I said, "Look, I got 10, I got 7. What'll I say?" And she said, "Well, just don't tell them anything. Just say, 'Yeah, sure, you'll do it.'" And I said, "I don't want to go on Dancing with the Stars, Michelle. I can't dance." And she said, "Don't worry. the Bachelor is your thing, because once you get that, that's 10 years easily.
Yeah.
It's a 10-year franchise.
Yep.
And I said, so I went for the screen test, and from what I was told by the execs, they loved it. They said, mate, you are the guy. And I'd watched the American show.
Yep.
And then, so the running joke was always with Michelle, am I dancing? She says, you will not be dancing. Not on my, I'm on holidays in Singapore with the kids. And I get this text from Michelle, and it's, what's your shoe size? And we're at like Universal Studios at Disneyland, and the kids were in the water having a great time. And my eldest son, he was there swimming with my youngest. And I've just gone, fuck, and just warm. And Morgan's looked up at me and given the thumbs up because they're having such a great time. And I thought, well, and that's how I ended up on Dancing with the Stars. And you know what? I have no regret about it. I think it was...
Got through a couple of weeks, I think 5 weeks or something.
I think we're up to week six rounds longer than I should have got there, Tim. And also what happened was all my family came on the first night because they thought he's gone. And I've got this where no one gets eliminated on the first night. So on the night of the jive, my wife left a message. She said, oh my God, I can't believe you got through. And then she suddenly remembered herself and she went, I mean, congratulations.
Well done.
And by the end, I couldn't get any people to come in and watch the show because all my family had seen it. And then I was getting cousins I hadn't seen in Melbourne for 1,000. Do you want to come to Dance with the Stars? We thought you'd be gone by now. So,
I
did your back.
Yeah, I did. I had a back injury during it. I was only person ever retired hurt. Very hurt indeed. Yeah, I zigged when I should have zagged. I think my partner, we're rehearsing on a Wednesday or something, and my partner was doing a lift, and she was supposed to jump from the side, and I was supposed to catch her and spin around. And she jumped a bit early, and I wasn't quite ready, and she sort of landed there, which went, and then I went, oh, that's not good. So the next day, I couldn't rehearse, and that was the Thursday, I think. And then the Friday, I had to fly up to Brisbane to do a gig up there at a festival, and it was just such a dull, deep ache, you know what I mean? And then I came back, and we had to do like full dress rehearsals on the Saturday, and I was in agony by then, and I sort of, my wife's going like, tell him to piss off, you know what I mean? Like if they see how much pain you're in, they're going like, you've got to be in, and management is ringing going, you've got to be in for this one. I'm going, mate, I can't walk, you don't understand. So anyway, I finally went in the next day, and we did like 2 dress rehearsals during the day, and then I'm out the back before the show, and Fev's, he's here rubbing the hamstrings and the lower back for me, and the producer come out and goes, what are you doing? And he said, that's your competitor. And he went, no, but it's me mate too, mate. He said he's in agony, you know, like seriously, he can't move, so I'm trying to help him, you know. And then we ended up we got through it, and there wasn't too bad of the lifts in that one. And then the next day it was all over. Just and then like I think it was the Monday morning. I woke up at 5 a.m. with just like, felt like a lightning bolt down my left leg. Yeah. And oh my gosh, it was just like just searing pain. So we got an ambulance and went into town, and they said, oh, you've got a split, like a perforated disc. It had split, and all of the gel that's actually in the disc spews out into your spinal cavity. As soon as it hits the spinal fluid, it calcifies. So then it just squashes the nerve, and that's the pain down the leg. So after the operation, I said, look, I'm having a bit of trouble lifting my foot up, you know, like changing gears up on a motorbike. And he said, oh, yeah, that's called drop foot. That could be permanent. I went, what?
I don't want drop foot.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going like, oh, thanks for that. So it's still a little, I trip on stuff still today because they reckon your nerves heal an inch every 6 months or something. So it takes months and years and that for it to actually heal all the way up. So, so I don't think I'll be doing it again either.
No, and it's so, because they tell you, when you go on it, they say, look, it's only 2 hours of training a day.
Yeah.
And I thought, 2 hours? I could learn German in 2 hours. I've never tried to learn German.
Yeah.
I could do that. And then all of a sudden that 2 hours blows out to 4, then it's 6. And then I remember we do the radio show here. I get straight on a plane, fly to Melbourne. I get and then I go whisked off to the studio, rehearse, do that all day, have dinner, wake up, do the radio show, finish the radio show. And they go, quick, where are you? And I said, well, I just finished the radio show. I've got to go to the toilet. You can go to the toilet when you get to the studio. I said, I've got to do a poo. And they said, there's no time for a poo. And I said, there's got to be a time for a poo. I'm going to die.
Absolutely no time for a poo. Yeah, no, TV things, I tell you what, they hold you to a schedule, that's for sure.
They do.
Have you taken any interest in Idol this year or watching any of the new seasons?
I've dipped in and out of it. The methamphetamine that is Married at First Sight has taken a lot of my attention. So,
yep.
But I have dipped into it, and I've had a long association with Idol. 2003 when it started with yourself on it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I just started at the radio show at WS. This before Amanda was working with me, and they didn't really get guests on the radio. And it came to pass that our producer Peter was good friends with Anthony Zimbardi, who was on the show with him.
Yeah.
And famously, we got him sacked from the show because he came in for an interview, and we were just talking about the voting number. Yeah. And I said, well, why don't you say the number here and get people to vote for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's a good idea. And then he went crazy with it. Everywhere he went, he started putting the number up.
Yeah.
And then I remember the interview, we were watching it because it was all live. And Dicko comes and goes, mate, I've got bad news. We're going to have to sack you for cheating. And Anthony Zimbardi, who's probably the nice fella.
Yeah, he's a nice fella. Yeah, absolutely.
He looked like, well, what? And I remember talking to you and Millsy, and I think Guy as well. You're all living in the Idol house.
That's right. Yeah.
Which Jonathan Coleman ended up buying.
He did, yeah. John,
I remember talking to you guys and I said, so how's voting going? And all you guys went, oh no, we don't want to. No, we've got to go. The line's breaking up.
Yeah, prank caller. Oh, poor old Anthony. He's that was because I was trying to remember what actually happened because I remember him getting disqualified. I thought he did a paying gig or something, but no, it was advertising the number.
There could have been a raft of things. But poor old, I'd like to think it was, and he said, oh, thanks for getting me chucked off the show. I saw him last year in Cronulla, and he said, thanks for getting me chucked off the show.
Oh, no, last year, 19 years later.
My life could be different.
Oh, no. So, mate, you touched on maths. You're a bit of a maths fan, yeah?
I don't know.
I suppose you get asked so many questions about it, do you?
No, it's for me, it's good radio fodder.
Yeah.
It's a real, but it's what I've seen in time. When I first started in radio, I really liked radio because I just liked radio. I never thought of being famous on radio. I would have liked to have been, I guess, famous for being on radio, but I don't feel any more fame than I had when I was in Western Australia. It doesn't really, pick up that much. But now it seems that everyone, influencers and the like, they're just this need for fame. And it's quite extraordinary. So these Married at First Sight people that go on for all the right reasons to find true love when the show first started.
Yeah.
But now it's more about the true love is how many Instagram followers. The man loves his Insta followers as much as this. And that's what the show comes down to.
Yeah, it does a bit, which is a bit saddening, really, I suppose, because the original idea, I suppose, with it were people who were really looking for a partner because they pushed the whole I've been unlucky in love and all that sort of stuff, and now it's more like I've been lucky with Instagram, unlucky with Instagram followers. Can your show help me get a few more of those?
Well, it's nuts. And there's a lady that was on it last year, Olivia, and so she was a special aid teacher, so doing a great job.
Yeah,
she's now on OnlyFans doing pornography. Like if you said to her when she was going to uni, you're a student teacher. Hey, here's your life timeline in 5 years. You're going to be doing hardcore pornography. She'd look at you like you were mad.
Oh, mate, and hasn't that taken off? I'll tell you what, I'm keeping that one in the back pocket in case I lose my voice or something.
Hey, Tim, I think Shannon for OnlyFans.
Oh, my gosh, could you imagine? That's why I'm growing the mo, mate, see?
I was about to say, I'm here to cleanse the pool, but I have no pool.
I'm here to clean the pool. Have you seen that? There's a guy on TikTok. He's pretty funny. He's got a couple of apps. One puts a mo on, the other one makes him bald, and he's so funny. Yeah. I'm just here with the horses. He's very funny, very funny. So, mate, let's talk about music because I know you're a huge music fan and been in bands as well. Obviously, like you and I, I've been a massive Radiators fan, as am I. Yeah. Go to the Radiators. We hung out together one night at the Carring Bar Hotel watching the Radiators.
That's right. That was great. We saw the Rads.
Yeah, they're great. They're so good. I've had a bit to do with the boys over the years, and just a bunch of great fellas, and just ultimate rockers too. You know what I mean? Like being around for so long, and so many people have probably stole some of the moves. I think Peter Garrett probably watched a little bit of the big fella, the lead singer. You know what I mean? A few times. Yeah. They're very similar in their affectations on stage, but yeah, give us a bit of insight.
Well, I saw them recently at Tarrant Point Hotel, and you know they always. I'm good mates with all the guys, and I sort of had a beer backstage, you know, in that depressing hotel that's behind the Tarrant Point Hotel. Yeah. You'd be familiar with it. Yeah. And I'm in that little meeting room, and Brian sort of sometimes gets really almost apologetic that he's still doing it. I said, mate, you are great at this. It's not like you suck. No. And I said, do you enjoy it? And he goes, I love it. And I said, well, don't make apologies.
Yeah, you know, no, absolutely. They're fantastic.
These guys you get to a certain age. Yeah. What are you going to do? Right? What, you're going to retire and live, you know, start making model trains?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And he's like, I could do that, but he does. He just enjoys it. And that night, they killed. I swear they killed. They were, and the crowd was about, like, it was weird. There was not much. There was the diehard fans, only 50 people. Yeah. But midway through the show, this other group, the people that were playing the pokies and stuff, started coming in because there was such a vibe. Then the place was just packed. Yeah. And people that hadn't even paid were just coming in with full crowds.
That's awesome.
Because and it just
because I mean, absolutely, mate. Because like out of all the bands that I've seen over the years, the Rads are just so original, and some original rockers like Jeff, mate. He's some of the, I know a few people who've known him a long time and talk about rock and roll, baby. Woo.
Yeah. Mate, Jeff Turner, he will never die wondering.
No, absolutely. But just such lovely guys too. Every single one of them. I love catching up with those guys. They're an absolute pleasure every time. So, mate, bands, musical instruments, you play a bit?
Well, I played drums at school, and I always wanted to be a drummer in a band. Yep. And unfortunately for me, I did play in a band. I managed to, I was a capable drummer, but it's funny, my brother, when I was on Dancing with the Stars, I was in a band years ago with my brother, and I couldn't, my big thing was the judges would go, mate, your timing's terrible. Your timing's terrible. And Alana, my dance teacher, said, I thought you said you played the drums at a band. Your timing should be great. And so I'm having a beer with my brother, and I said, man, I just don't understand it. I used to be, my timing's just terrible. And I said, but I played the drums. And then Matt just takes a sip of his beer and he goes, yeah, but you're a shit ass. And I said, well, why didn't you tell me? And he goes, well, you're so enthusiastic. I don't want to hurt your feelings.
That's great.
And he was right. I just couldn't. But having said that, I was in a band, a local band called Bad Element. And we used to record down at Take 5 Studios at Tarrant Point, and John Swanee used to rehearse there. Yeah, so we're all standing out the back having a smoke. Swanee comes over and says, hey fellas, what's going on? I'm going, Jesus, John Swanee, what's the name of your unit? And we said, oh, Bad Element. He goes, is that like something on your stove that doesn't work?
That's great.
And he goes, let's hear. So we played a song. We're standing there, and Swanee's just standing there. And it was so daunting to have like John Swan just standing there with a listening face. And the listening face people do.
Absolutely.
He didn't say much. He just went, yeah, tight, sounds tight, keep it up, and just walked out. Didn't really say you were great.
Yeah.
At the same time, didn't say we sucked.
But that was enough though. I'd have been happy with that.
We ended up, our dream was to play at Carrying Bar Inn as Bad Element.
Yeah, cool.
And it was. And this is the time when Choir Boys had come out, and Choir Boys had changed. For us, the Choir Boys were the greatest thing in the world. We wanted to be the Choir Boys. In fact, there was a bit that we were getting a bit too close to the Choir Boys, where the lead singer guitarist permed his hair. So he had the Mark Gable perm.
Yeah, right.
And the Choir Boys were so good. I just thought they were amazing. And it never worked out for us. I ended up working as a DJ down the Snow, just in the nightclub, and all the guys down there, like ski instructors and stuff, we put together a bit of a band. So I took my drums, and and then one day the boss of the chalet where we were working, he goes, "Oh man, I met these guys, musos, up on the mountain. They want to come and stay in a couple of weeks. But they'll play in your band." I went, "Oh, okay. Do you know who they are?" They go, "I don't know, Ian someone and Andy Thomas, Andy someone." And I went, do you know him? And I went, well, you have to be, and this is before the internet, right? He goes, Andy Thomas. And I go, I've never heard of Andy Thomas in my life. So anyway, a couple of weeks later, this massive guy walks in with a saxophone case. It's Anderson from Moving Pictures. And I'm looking at him going, and he goes, are you the drummer? I went, yeah. And he said, are you the drummer / DJ? I went, yeah. And he goes, I'm Andy. I went, right. And I didn't quite, he had to say he was from Moving Pictures. I'm going, like Moving Pictures, what, the band? And he went, yeah, the band, Moving Pictures. And I went, oh. And then he goes, I've got a mate, Ian, he's coming as well. And Ian Moss walks in.
Oh, wow.
So, that's Ian Moss from Cold Chisel. And and the only professional musician we had in the band was a guy called Bert, and he was a the lift operator.
Yep.
Guys that run the lift. And he played in a band called the Drop Bears, and they had a minor hit in the 80s.
Yep.
And so he was our professional glue in the band.
Yeah, right.
And he said, we've got Ian Moss and Andy Thompson in our band. You can't play the drums. Got a bass player that's more interested in taking his shirt off and showing off. And he started to stress. And the boys, they never showed up. We never saw him for rehearsal. Like we just play, and they said, don't worry, fellas, we'll be there on the night.
Yep.
And then when we got there, when Mossy walked in, and he goes, do you guys know Georgia? And we went, oh, yeah, sure. And Mossy's, we're doing Georgia.
Wow.
And it was just to stand there behind Mossy.
Yeah.
And it was in this little, it was almost like the Chalet Hotel. It's this beautiful old hotel, but there's this downstairs bar, and it's like a cavern, and it's really intimate and small. And there was this light on Mossy's hair, and he's just doing that solo. And I'm just going, I'm playing drums, and there's Mossy.
Wow.
And Andy Thompson's standing there with his sax. But I don't know if you've ever seen Andy when he gets on the sax. He looks into the crowd as if he's going to punch someone if they give him any shit.
Yeah.
And then it was amazing. Absolutely.
Yeah,
amazing.
that would have been wow. That's a great story. I mean, loving music and mucking around a bit too, and then have to play with someone like that. Crikey, I bet that would be a memory you don't want to forget anytime soon.
Well, and I think that was it. I retired from the drums after that.
You should have took some Instagram shots for that one, mate.
Well, that was pre Insta. I've got some
Absolutely.
photos of me on the drums, but yeah, I just if only my timing was right.
But mate, I'm with you. But with the dancing thing, it's a whole different type of timing with that sort of stuff. The 5, 6, 7, 8 type thing. We go 1, 2, 3, 4. So straight off the bat, it's a little bit daunting. But then you have to learn how to re-walk, sort of thing. Turn your toes out. It was just such a foreign thing to me,
And then they'll count to 1, 2, 3, 4. And then they'll go, now there's 5, 6, 7, 8. And you've got to remember this. And Alana would say, it's not that hard. And I'm saying, are you joking?
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing in the world.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, mate, we talked about the Radiator, the Rads. Who are some other favourite bands, and who are some big names that you've interviewed over the years? You've got a couple of those?
Like band names or...
either or, like bands you're into at the moment, but also any big bands, I suppose, or big acts or big stars that you've interviewed.
Well, I think in the bands, like to see Midnight Oil on their final Big Circle tour.
Yep.
And I saw them at the Coogee Bay Hotel at Selinas. And a mate of mine, the guy that I was just talking about that was in Bad Element, we stood up the front at the Coogee Bay Hotel, and they started with Outside World, and Pete walked out and he had this waver in his voice. And I just had this moment of everything just slowed down. I went, oh, please be good. Please be good. And then, because this is the first time they played for ages.
Yep.
And they it was nuts. Once that nervousness got out of his voice. And then they just did all of Head Injuries. And it was like, I still get chills just thinking about it.
Yeah.
I didn't drink any beer because I didn't want to lose my place at the front of the stage.
Yep. Yeah, gotcha.
And I remember because she said, do you want to go in the little VIP area up the top? And I went, no, I got to be right up the front. So we got there so early, and I was just up the front and just watching them. It's probably the greatest gig I've seen. Oils. Like I don't know how many times I've seen them, but that time to see them at the end of their career was like amazing. And their last farewell, I didn't really feel the need to go and see it. I thought, I can't. That's it. That's my. That's it.
Yeah.
So to see them, and Guns N' Roses. I think Guns N' Roses here in Sydney. I got like free tickets. The boss rang me and he said, oh, do you want to go to Guns N' Roses? I said, sure. I rang my brother. I said, do you want to go to Guns N' Roses? Yeah, I'm not doing anything. So we go there. And when you get free tickets, you don't know what you're going to get. You can get tickets to see Shannon Noll. You could be in the nosebleeds. Or you could be scared. right next to Shannon on stage.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
don't know.
No,
And
no,
you're just
sure.
and you can't be a whinger. You're just grateful for it.
Absolutely,
And,
yeah.
And so we go down there and we got the little tickets, and the lady goes, "Oh no, keep going, keep going, keep going." And then all of a sudden we're just at the front at the stage,
Cool.
and I'm just going, "Are you kidding me?" And then we're just loving the show and we're drinking beers, and then we hear this riff, and my brother goes, "Oh man, that sounds just like Riff Raff," and I went, "Yeah," and that's fucking Angus Young, and Angus Young.
Oh, wow.
He's in his he's not in his school uniform, and they do Riff Raff, and I swear I thought I was going to, when you see people go mental and just scream at shows,
Yeah.
you'd see it all the time, mate.
I wish.
But I was like a teenage girl. I lost it. It was nuts.
I bet, yeah.
Just to see that, I just thought, and sorry, I just swore in your podcast. Sorry.
No, you're right, mate. Go for your life. There's no rules here, buddy. Don't worry about that.
It was so mental. It was the greatest, to see that, and like Cold Chisel, I remember when we went to see Cold Chisel in Brisbane Entertainment Centre, same sort of thing. Me and Helen, my wife, they said, "Oh, come and sit. You want to sit down by the mix desk?" And I went, "Yeah, sure." So we sit at the mix desk, and then I realised there's a little stage there. I'm thinking, well, what's that all about, I wonder? And then halfway through the show, the band comes to this middle stage. They've got a drum kit there, and they do Ship and Steel, but it's not some softy acoustic thing.
Yeah.
It's just in the middle of the thing. And I'm behind Steve Presswich, the greatest drummer in the world.
Yeah.
And he's doing Ship and Steel. And I'm standing there with a beer in my hand just going, "Oh, this is nuts." It's Steve Presswich. He's right there.
That's great. Yeah, I did a tour with Jimmy, probably 10 years ago now, I suppose. And the first show was in South Australia somewhere. And there was a whisper that it was just before Cold Chisel did their comeback tour, that big one that they did. And next thing, we sort of started seeing a few of the boys out because it was Jimmy and his band normally doing it. And next thing, all the Cold Chisel boys turned up. So we went out the side, round from the backstage area, and got in between the barricade and the stage. So we're sort of like sitting right there, like bits of sweat falling all over us and everything. It was mental, because it was the first gig they played together in Yonks. It was such a great moment. I'll never forget it. It was heaps fun. Awesome.
And to be associated with those guys, I would never imagine that I'd ever know Jimmy Barnes. And it's weird that I kind of I know him. I always go, I'm just the talent that they have, that band. It's just, it's just
great songs, great everything all around, players and that as well. You know what I mean? Unbelievable. What a success story that is. Wow.
Oh man, nuts.
Tim, have you got a question you'd like to ask Jonesy, mate?
Well, obviously, mate, you're a huge motorcycle fanatic. Where did all that come from?
I got hit by a motorcycle when I was 5 in a back lane in Melbourne. So it was like
really?
I was imprinted by a woman on a BMW. I ran straight in front of her, kicking. Because when you go to Melbourne, everyone just kicks a footy. Let's go for have a kick.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was at my cousin's house and we're kicking away in the back lane in their place in Heidelberg, and I just ran straight out on the road. My dad was watching it all unfold, and he said she wasn't going fast. She probably doing about 30 Ks.
Yeah.
But I've just gone straight out, and she's boom. She broke a leg. Oh. But I've got this flashback moment where the old man, he was having a smoke. He put the cigarette on the fence, and he sort of went over, and he goes, and he switches the bike off because the wheel was spinning. It was still running.
Yeah.
And he comes over and he goes, "Mate, are you all right?" And I had like all blood in my hair. It felt like someone put chocolate topping in my hair.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, I think so. And then ambulance and all that sort of, and get my head stitched up. It was, so I think that was the moment.
Yeah, right. So what are you riding now, mate?
Well, I've got 5 bikes, or 6, but depending if my wife's listening, so 5. And I ride them pretty regularly. I've got 2 Harleys, Ultra Classic. That's my latest one.
Yep.
And I've got like a Dynaglide Harley, which I've had for about 20 odd years now. Got a Hayabusa, a Yamaha, which my dad left to me when he died, and a GSX-R 750, an old one from 1985, which I restored.
Nice.
So, and a few trail bikes, but they're PE 175 Suzuki. So I went through a 2-stroke old Suzuki phase for a while there.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, there's IT 430 or something was the
Yammies, they're great.
Yeah, it was a ripper.
Go forever.
Yeah, I had a what was it? 600 TT 600 when I was about 15 on the farm.
Mate, they are.
Yeah, just a beast.
Legend.
Yeah. Because out there, you just point and shoot out there. It's not real technical going down fence lines and that, you know what I mean? But crikey, I had some fun on that. Well, it's a bit of a step up from the old DT 175.
Oh, the old DT.
The old dog turd.
That was the ag bike, mate. That's the one you got stuck with.
Yeah,
you can ride the DT. Oh, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. You got the raw end of the pineapple with that one. So, mate, you've recently taken up windsurfing.
Yeah, or swearing, as I like to call it.
Yeah, right. Okay.
It's the dumbest thing in the world. It's so dumb.
Is it hard?
It's so bad. Yeah, it's incredibly hard.
It's
right. And I used to sail as a kid, so I like sailing, but you steer, the rudder is your feet, so the board is the rudder. Mm-hmm. And once you get that principle right, and the sail, even I don't fully understand it, but everyone was saying, you've got to get a harness. Once you get a harness, your life will change. So I've got my boom and this little harness strap now. And that's nuts because you're attached to the thing, but you can lean back.
Yeah.
But what happens when a gust, like a big gust, you need a lot of wind for it. When a big gust gets you just go, whoa, and then you're stuck into the sail.
Yeah, right. Gotcha.
Like today, I was underneath the sail. I'm strapped to the harness. I'm going, this isn't good.
I'm on the wrong side of things here.
I'm on the wrong side of things here.
Oh, yeah, no, that'd be no good to me. The water skiing, I think, is great. I've done a heap of water skiing out here, but I don't know about the windsurfing thing. What about them kite surfing too? That looks crazy, that sort of stuff.
I've
seen a bloke get carried up into about 200 metres up in the air the other day.
And people say to me, they say, you should give kite surfing a go because it's easier than windsurfing. And it's almost like saying, yeah, so's unicycling, mate. I'll never do kite surfing. That's a bridge too far.
Yeah, absolutely. Could end up in New Zealand, I reckon.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, mate. So, also, you released a book, 50 Shades of 50. I love that. That's a great name for a book, mate. I'm not far off that myself. What was
it, mate? Almost 50? What are you 50?
I'm a few years off that, mate. Oh, three years. 47 I am now.
Yeah, well, I can't believe you're 47. That's nuts.
I know. It's gone so fast, mate. I can only remember about 6 months of the last 20 years.
Bloody hell.
I know. It's crazy.
You were so young when we said, like in 2003, you were just so young.
No, I mean,
now.
It was funny because I think I said this last week too. I was like 26 in 9 months. So you had to be under 27 to go on the show. Oh. And then so I turned 27 while I was on the show. So
you were the old. You were one of the old ones.
Uncle Oddle used to call me.
27.
Yeah, good times, mate. Yeah, that time does absolutely fly. That's crazy. I look with the kids now, and they're all men and young women, and then the little fella. Thank goodness he keeps.
I called me, but he just. I remember him being a baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I know, and they just get to a point. All of a sudden, they just change like overnight. It's crazy, you know.
Yeah.
But mate, back to your book. How did that come about? And were you approached by anyone or to write it? Or
yeah, they the publicist came to me and just said, "Oh, have you ever thought of writing a book?" And I just said, "Well, what about?" And I said, "Oh, just a memoir." And I said, "Oh, I don't know." And he said to me, "Well, can you we'd get a ghostwriter. You'd come along and just tell your stories." And then at the time I was writing for Live to Ride magazine. And so I said, well, look, I'm a columnist for Live to Ride. I do 1,000 words a month. And he said, well, yeah, okay. Well, let's, put something together, a little, put a start of a book together. So he gave me some, like a project where he'd go, these are the things I want to hear about. You're playing bands, motorbikes, radio, people you've interviewed, all that sort of stuff. And he'd break it down into the chapters. And then all this, it was really weird. I just started typing away. And it was like it was like I had an iPod, like not an iPod, a USB in my head.
Yeah.
Just these memories.
Just open the floodgates.
Typing, and the memories just came out, and you couldn't stop. It was like really. And I remember at the time the deadline, because they asked me in the March, and it said, "Oh, we'll be looking for an August." And I went, "Oh yeah, August next year." And he went, "No, this August." I went, "Oh wow, you're kidding me?" And he goes, "You can do it." He goes, "All you got to do is think of it this way: you write 1,000 words a month." And I go, yeah. And he goes, how long does that take you? And I said, I don't know, 10 minutes. And he goes, does it take you a month to do it? I said, no, I usually wait till the last minute deadline and all that stuff. And then I write it. And he goes, well, then you can do it. And so he said, if you can do 5,000 words a week, we'll be right.
Yeah.
And he was right. It just flowed out. And it was I'd recommend it to anyone. If you can write a book, it's just, it's something that is great. And like I had a guy come up to me with his wife, and she said, my husband's never read a book before except for yours.
Oh, cool.
It was the first book he read. And now he's reading books. And I went, well, that's pretty good.
Absolutely.
You know? So I was quite chuffed. You know, it was a nice thing to do.
No, I know what you're saying, but too, because I had a ghostwriter for mine because I haven't written any things like articles or anything like that sort of thing. But once I started talking about stuff, then I remember something else, and I think that's what happens with a lot of memories, because you sort of unlock something when you touch on something that unlocks another memory that you haven't thought about for a long, long time. And if you don't go into that headspace of trying to explaining a story which happened at that particular time or place and time, it just reminds you of then this other thing happened, and then it just snowballs from there. It was really I really enjoyed the process. When I did it, it was such a lot of fun, and I remember I read the book back and just went. It was more about all the stuff before Idol, stuff that I'd forgotten about, working on the farm with Dad and all that sort of thing. It was, brought back some great memories.
But great memories of your dad,
Yeah, absolutely.
You lost your dad at very young. Like when my dad died, I was in my mid to late 40s.
Yeah.
It's hard. When you're in your 20s, when you lose your dad. That's a big part, and I always think of Warnie's kids. When they're at a point in their lives where they were just about to get the best. Like there's a new level.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
You know what I mean?
It's absolutely. Yeah.
It's not like you're absent when you're younger, but I think you're more present as you get older.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's where you can impart your wisdom. So it's quite.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Quite
the kids seem really together, but I've seen a couple of the kids speak, and that the young bloke especially, he's so hopefully like you said, it's a horrendous thing to go through, but hopefully they'll be okay. Mate, so we're both Sharkies fans.
Yes.
How are we going to go this year?
Oh, you know what? I think there's a vibe. I think Craig Fitzgibbon has pulled them.
Yeah, Fitzy's a great fellow. I love him. He's a really nice guy.
He's a nice fellow, and he's. I just think with the line, it's almost like the lineup they had in 2016. I feel there's a bit of there's a bit of that to it, and Nico Hines is just
he's just killing it, isn't he?
He's a lovely kid. You meet him and he goes, "Oh, how are you?" And he's just always not jaded or any. Yeah. He's just a lovely kid. So I really, I think I will never say premiership contention. Top four, easily top.
Yeah, cool. He just come out of nowhere, didn't he? And absolutely cleaned up. He was just I made because I've sort of split your time whenever I can on a weekend, which is so hard because you're always travelling somewhere from a gig or going to a gig or doing sound check or doing a gig itself at night, so you miss the footy the majority of the time. So you've got to catch up through the week sort of thing. But I'd make sure that whenever I could on a Sunday somewhere I get back to watch, because he was just such an exciting player to watch, because in that we haven't had anyone who was blistering in the halves as much for a long time, So that's all right. We all love watching a great halfback or a great 5'8", you know what I mean, who just control the game and create the opportunities, to win. And then if they stand up defensively as well, then they're just, they're made of gold,
Although it's hard talking about football now because my brain hasn't connected with football yet.
Yeah.
I sit there and I go, hang on a minute, Sharks, right? That's a footy season starting. That's right. That's stress.
Yeah, I know. I'm actually looking forward to it again. I don't watch a great deal of TV these days, but I still enjoy watching the footy whenever you get a chance. Well, Volkanovski got beaten on the weekend. Bloody spewing about that. Our UFC fighter from Wollongong. He did a great job. Champion he is.
Yeah.
But anyway, do you watch the UFC?
No, not really. I think UFC my son, my eldest one, who's 30, he's right in the drop zone.
Yep.
So he was around for dinner the other night and we're talking about UFC. And Amanda always calls it kick in the face. It's kick in the face.
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
And Morgs is around and he's going at length about all these UFC players.
Yeah.
And I'm not really feigning interest. I'm sort of going, yeah. And then he goes, have you heard of SFC? And I went, what's that, man? He goes, Slap Fight Championships. And I don't know if
have you seen that?
Guys, they slap each other.
Yeah, if Dana White's created that, hasn't he? How them blokes are going to get brain damage? It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. They just stand there like that with their hands behind their back, and the other fella just aims up like this, like I'm slap myself, then goes just whop, and they smash each other across the face with an open hand.
It's the dumbest thing. And then more. And I said, "What next? What, they're going to fight in a phone box?" And he goes, "That's the thing in Russia. They fight in a phone box." And then he goes, what about this one? Car jitsu. And I went, no. Two guys in a car sitting next to each other, seat belted in, and then they fight each other.
Oh,
They're
really?
going to get out of the seat belt. And I'm going, mate, you could drive to Taree with your family and get
I seen a good one the other day. There's two guys and they got their left hands strapped together. And they're over a table, sort of like an arm wrestling table, but they only get to reuse their right. So it's all pulling forward and hitting with the right.
Oh.
So they go, I'm going like crikey. It's pretty easy to get knocked out, let alone making it easier.
It's what's wrong? And I think at my age, I suddenly thought, I don't know. I don't need to watch UFC.
Absolutely. No, I miss a few of the fights, but Volk's an absolute champion, Volkanovski, and obviously Aussie. So Big Ty Tuivasa is a good mate of mine too, and he's done really, really well. So go the Aussies in the UFC.
Go the Aussies.
Absolutely.
I'm on you. I'm on there. They're our boys. When it comes to that, it's just I'm Mr. UFC when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I'm like Joe Rogan. I'm in the ring.
Yeah, you're in there, mate. Well, he thought Volk won, I think. Joe did, so that was interesting. Tim, you got any final thoughts, buddy?
Well, look, I think it's been a great episode. Once again, we were a bit concerned that this, as I said, might be a bit of a second episode syndrome, but that has not happened. So really appreciate it, Jonesy.
If I can't be better than Dicko, then what the hell's wrong?
Absolutely, mate. Jonesy, mate, thank you so very, very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, buddy. And thanks so much for the support over the years. You and Amanda have been fantastic to me. Like I said at the start, and through thick and thin as well, buddy. And I really, really appreciate it. So thanks so much for coming on and helping us out with our infancy in the podcast world.
Well, you're doing well, mate. Good luck with the OnlyFans thing.
I've got to get back to the gym or get this mo filled out pretty.
Get that, mate. Cleanse the pool.
I'm here to cleanse the pool.
What about me? What about me? What about my needs?
Who has anyone said, what about you? It's always, what about me? I'm here to... No. So I've been practicing. No, just joking. Good on you, mate. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Take care, buddy, and hope to see you soon. Good on you, mate. So, thanks to everybody for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please like and save this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and give the show a rating. I'm told that it helps the show get out to more people. We'll be back with episode 3 next week.